Well, hello, Derbyites, and we are here, the Gold Derby team, to break down episode 6.02 of Game of Thrones, called Home, and it was a big one. It was a doozy. We're going to talk about Emmy chances. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of things, and we're not going to bury the lead because the show definitely didn't bury the lead. And I think Season 6, oh, by the way, I'm joined by Amanda and Sam, so it's exciting to break down Game of Thrones with them. And we'll kick things off with Amanda. We ended last season with a big cliffhanger, a big death, got a lot of controversy, a lot of people speculating that the person might not actually be dead, but it looks like, I don't know, it's looking more and more like Melisandre is actually dead and they're not going to bring her back on the show.
Yeah, she's dead. Yeah, she's definitely dead, but it appears Jon Snow is alive. So I appreciate that the Red Woman had some doubt, and it wasn't the easiest kind of, why didn't I think of this an hour and 56 minutes ago kind of a thing. So I appreciate there was some doubt that whether or not she could or couldn't do it, and yeah, I never believed he was dead because I read an interview where they said the reason the showrunners were able to get the rights to the book series was that they correctly told George R. R. Martin who the parents of Jon Snow were. So I figured we would at least probably find that out before he really kind of was gone for good.
Yeah. Sam, were you shocked, or had you read a million theories on the internet about how Jon Snow is not really dead before watching this episode?
Well, I mean, I definitely thought he was dead because you have to be dead to be reborn. So it was just, I was worried they were going to make us go the entire season and wait until Melisandre sort of like got her courage back and we're going to spend an entire season and the ending would be him being revived, but I'm glad they didn't do that. I assumed he was going to come back because there's too much story around him and too much prophecies and weight around his character. So I assumed he was going to come back sooner or later.
Yes, I made the bold prediction last week that he would definitely be coming back to life, but we would not see it this episode. So I was wrong on the second count. And I think like a bit foolish of me because I do feel like and what I realized sort of maybe this week when I was thinking it through is if you die around sort of the wall and stuff, you've got a risk of turning into a White Walker, and maybe like you sort of the resurrection, you've got to be racing against the White Walker clock to a degree. So that was perhaps my error in analysis last week. Amanda, do you like that Jon Snow was brought back? Do you like the way they did it?
Yeah, I did like the way they did it because again, it wasn't just the easiest thing in the world for her to do. There was some doubt that whether or not she could do it, and everyone finally just kind of walked out of the room, and then we saw finally when it was just Jon and his wolf that he was brought back to life. So it was a good episode overall, and I was happy with the way they did it. And I'm glad they didn't drag it out another episode because it was just getting a little ridiculous.
Sam, same questions. Do you like they brought him back? Do you like the way they did it?
I do like that they brought him back because I have plenty of tinfoil theories as to what he's going to do next, but I had read a lot of people online who didn't like the way they revived him. They wanted something bigger and flashier, but I liked it. The only other person we've ever seen revived like that on the show is way back in season 3, Beric Dondarrion, and he's revived by a red priest who tells Melisandre that, you know, until I did this, I kind of lost faith, and I was just reciting words that didn't mean anything. And we see Melisandre kind of is destroyed and lacks her faith because she thinks her prophecies are wrong, and everyone in the room, it takes until everyone has lost faith in the resurrection for him to actually be revived. So I think it's kind of interesting that maybe there's sort of a faithlessness that is required for bringing someone back to life. I thought it was kind of a nice way to tie back to what we've seen before.
That's interesting. I am definitely not a fan of the way they brought him back to life, just because it seemed like with Melisandre in the past, she has done sort of lesser acts of sorcery which have been a bit more interesting in terms of, like in the past we've seen her with smoke monster babies or with like leeches on people and all sorts of things like that. This seemed like just washing the wounds and saying a spell was pretty middle of the road for sort of sorcery, and sort of seemed like one of the most interesting things she's done, but the least interesting way she's gone about doing something. So on one hand, I felt that. I also felt that I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of him coming back to life, because I think with the Ned Stark death in Season 1, you had the Ned Stark death in Season 1, that sort of really lit a torch under this show with the idea that no one is safe, on this show. Now Jon Snow being brought back to life, I sort of feel like, well, now everyone's to a degree safe. I don't know. It sort of lowered the stakes for me as a Game of Thrones watcher. What do you think about that, Amanda?
I feel like when the other people have died, the major characters, it seemed like they're kind of a run out of story. So for me, I still felt like there was story for Jon Snow. So yeah, I can see both sides of it, but again, until we kind of know his parentage, I would like him to stick around for that.
Yeah, I think that is fair. Like that, I am more excited to see Jon Snow back to life than I would about any other character. And it did make sense with the Red Woman being there and everything like that. The one thing I will say is, I would have liked it to cost the Red Woman something. I thought we predicted last week that she might have to give up her life or something to save Jon Snow. It seemed like a pretty a lot of the things she's asked for in the past have asked for some form of sacrifice or some sort of trade-off, and it didn't seem like there was any real trade-off.
Did he freeze, or?
I think he froze.
Uh-oh.
The White Walker got to him. I think he froze.
He'll be back in a minute.
He'll be back. Well,
yeah.
I'll say my piece on it is I kind of agree with you that I think there's too much story and there's too much pointing to Jon Snow being such a huge part of the coming sort of climactic showdown with White Walkers and his lineage going back to whoever his parents may be. So in that case, I'm sort of fine with Jon Snow being back.
I've got a good question for you. Do you think it'll get her off Arya's kill list? Like if she runs, hopefully she runs into Jon Snow before she runs into the Red Woman, because that, if you remember, that she made her way onto Arya's kill list.
She added her, didn't she? Yeah, I mean, I still don't know how Arya's going to fit back into the overall story because she keeps training for something, but that's a puzzle piece I don't know what's happening with yet.
Okay, just like Jon Snow, I'm back.
Yeah, so we were just asking, I asked Sam, and I'll just ask you, do you think that saving her beloved half-brother will get the Red Woman off Arya's kill list if they should run into each other?
Ooh.
There you go. You missed a lot while you were gone.
Arya's not great with it takes a lot to get off Arya's kill list. I don't think we've seen someone get off it yet.
Not alive.
I'm going to say no. But it'll be interesting with Arya and what she's doing at the moment, whether she still has the kill list moving forward. It's looking like they're going in a direction where she's going to become someone who has no name. So it's going to be interesting what she does moving forward with that. Yeah. Any more thoughts, Sam, on the Jon Snow revelation at the end? What a cracker of a way to end the episode. Something to get people talking all week. Sam, what are your big final sort of thoughts surrounding that?
My thoughts, going back to what you said about why he should come back, is that if you remember, in the show we've seen one character come back. There's another one in the books, which may not make it to the show. But when people come back in Westeros and George R. R. Martin's fiction, they always come back different. Like Beric Dondarrion is just focused on his mission, and he's kind of living a half-life. He doesn't remember a lot of his life before. So I'm interested to see, is it going to be Jon Snow that we know who comes back, or is he going to be drastically changed? I think there's going to be something. There's going to be a cost. Maybe the cost wasn't for Melisandre, but I think there is going to be a cost for Jon.
That's interesting. I'm excited. I'm excited to hear that. If someone hasn't read the books, that's exciting to hear. Okay, we're an Emmy website at Gold Derby. We love breaking down the Emmy Awards. No one talks about them better than we do. If actors are nominated for Emmys, they have to submit an episode. Is this anyone's tape? Does anyone here have a solid episode to submit, Amanda?
It depends on how many episodes he appears in, but this might not be a bad one for Jonathan Pryce if he should be like in the guest actor category. And I could see with the Emmy being the winning series coming back, there's usually a bump. And that's probably the one place they could get that bump. So if he only appears in 3 or 4 episodes, then yeah, this could be a decent one where he's kind of staring Jaime Lannister in the face and saying, go ahead and do it. But otherwise, I don't think so. I like Tyrion. I like Peter Dinklage's saying this week, but it probably wasn't enough. That's not his tape. He's probably got something coming later in the season.
Yeah. What do you think, Sam? Who has the best Emmy tape from this episode?
Yeah, it's not a great tape for anyone. I mean, unless they sort of if they kill the High Sparrow off next episode randomly, it could be a good one for him. But it's a very busy episode, so there's lots of little tiny scenes, and they're all very packed full of good stuff. But the only really Emmy-worthy scene I think that could get anyone some traction is the Jaime and High Sparrow scene. But I feel like both of them will probably have better submissions down the road. But 2 episodes in, I would think that would be both of those actors' best submissions.
In the forums, we had AMG in the Gold Derby forums at goldderby.com. AMG said, and I may not pronounce his name right, Iwan Ryan is the real star who should be pushed in supporting actor. That is the actor who plays Ramsay Bolton, who had a pretty big scene in the episode. Is that a better performance than Jonathan Pryce? And could he die in a couple of episodes and be able to submit in guest?
I think the biggest problem he's going to have is a likability factor, because spoiler alert, he has a pretty decent body count by the end of this, and one of them is a little, 10-minute-old newborn. So it's going to be a big hurdle for him on the likability front, because he's not like that winking devil that you love to hate. You really just hate him. He doesn't really have a redeeming factor. You're more invested in seeing what's going to happen to him, because
yeah, but there is like, villains do sometimes win Emmys, and this was an episode where I don't think he was as unlikable as he's been in past episodes.
Who killed a woman and her baby?
I know, seriously.
I don't know. I feel like...
I mean, yeah, she was from a terrible house, but fed her baby to the dog.
Poor woman just gave birth, and now she's being dragged out in the snow. I'm like, oh my god.
He set a pretty
villains do
high
well,
bar
but villains
on,
like Cersei.
What's sorry? Yeah.
I said villains can do well, but villains like Cersei, who has an emotional quality there because she justifies all of her evil actions. Ramsay's he's a good actor, but I think it will be difficult for him to get any Emmy nomination from that.
Yes,
He's
and
going to kill Jon Snow, so...
well,
I mean, before Roose like bit the bullet, he's like, "Are you out of your mind? You're gonna kill the Lord Commander of the Night Watch." It's funny, but yeah, this is like Joffrey with the volume turned up,
yeah,
and now there's no one there to say you need to stop.
yeah, it was funny when they talk about debating whether they should kill Jon Snow or not. I think, well, they're a couple of episodes behind. No one got them the season 5 Blu-rays. And I do think though that I just want to make it very clear. It may sound like I was being a bit of a baby killer apologist. I am definitely not. I just think he had a very unlikable episode last season.
Oh.
A very uncomfortable. I think he just set the bar for unlikability very high for himself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was thinking more about him killing his dad, which was unlikable, but his dad was an unlikable person that he was killing.
Yeah.
Rather than in some episodes where he has killed or done pretty horrible things to fan favorite characters on the show.
So where do you think Theon's headed? Is he going back to Winterfell, or is he going back to the
I
islands?
think he's going to Pike, to Iron Islands.
Yeah, I think he's going back to the Greyjoys, and we saw the scene of stuff happening with the Greyjoys. We finally touched base with them again, so I think they'll probably bring those two storylines together, which I'm excited for. See another sort of house and how things are going over there. And Alfie Allen had a good scene. That wasn't a bad scene for him, saying goodbye to Sansa. Like, it is really interesting with the Emmy Awards now, the guest acting rule. And the sort of like, if you're in less than 50% of the episodes, in a show like this where anyone could die any episode, if you die in the first half of a season, you're in the guest category.
Yeah. And that kind of screwed up their plan for Jonathan Pryce last year, because they wanted to submit him for guest, and then he was in like one too many episodes, I think, when they changed the rule.
Yeah. So that's pretty interesting. And we've got I think also what about the Peter Dinklage episode? Because I don't think this was an amazing episode for Peter Dinklage, but wasn't it better than what he won for last year? Like, he does have a monologue. He has a scene with dragons, which makes it one of the more interesting scenes of the episode. And then could this be enough for Peter Dinklage?
I don't think it was more or less than what he submitted last year. I think it was different than what we've seen in the past, because he's just telling the sweet story of he was a boy, and it's just amazing to watch him work his gift of gab on these animals. And all props to the special effects when that other one's like, okay, go ahead and do me now. Take the chain off. Like, he really was, it was a really great scene. I think what would help him is if he had one of those scenes, if he had an episode with like Kit Harington, who probably can sneak in this year, and Kit Harington kind of helped him out. He's going to need help. We think there's been enough press this year. There's been enough press about how the heck did he win last year that he's going to need a little more than just this time.
And that is interesting what you raise. Actually, Sam, do you have a thought on Dinklage's take?
I think this scene will be remembered in the season because it's really nice and rare on Game of Thrones to watch a character get what they want. Like, we saw Brienne in the first episode finally get what she wants after 3 seasons and find Sansa, and Tyrion has wanted he's wanted to learn about dragons and see dragons for his entire life, which has been a theme with him. So I thought it was a very touching scene. I don't know if it'll win him an Emmy, but they obviously like him because last year's submission was not what we thought was a killer submission too. So you never know. I do think it'll be a remembered scene.
I do think whatever you think about whether tapes are relevant or irrelevant anymore at the Emmys with their new rules and things like that, I think it'd be pretty hard to say that at the very least in that particular category last year, tapes were not the dominant factor. Now, there were years beforehand where there are some confusing winners from tape. So I'm not saying that necessarily tapes won't matter this year on that category. But what I am saying is I do think you don't want to just go, well, as long as Peter Dinklage does something better than in his last year's tape, he's guaranteed to win again. Because I think
yeah. We've seen people win with not the greatest tape after maybe like last year when season 4 when he really had like a great kind of big scene, and then the next year maybe there's not really a front runner and you know there's some goodwill and he had a decent episode and he wins. We've seen that, but if you're judging just by the tapes last year, which we would hope that's what they're doing, but they're not, obviously. Jonathan Banks just was like here, and then here's everybody else.
Yeah, and I think with Peter Dinklage, I think if you are someone that is inclined to vote Peter Dinklage, and you're leaning towards, you want to vote for him because you're a big Game of Thrones, a big Peter Dinklage fan, this tape is possibly enough to give you to justify maybe that vote. Where you go, oh, that was a really cool scene with the dragons. He had a good speech. Like, so I think at least Dinklage now has an episode that could help with some voters that want to get that. But I think for this episode alone, because he has had much stronger episodes in previous seasons, this episode alone is probably not enough to win purely on a tape standing. Amanda, I thought you raised a very interesting point. This is obviously not a tape for Kit Harington, but him being alive now will have an impact on the Emmy race. He was not going to get nominated for just lying on a table as a corpse. They don't give Emmy performances usually for performances that wouldn't. But now he's going to be a character in the show. He's going to have acting performances. So now we can be on Kit Harington watch with all this buzz he's had. Will he have the material this season to justify a nomination, help with that sort of steam? Sam, do you think he can do it? We have never had a guy other than Peter Dinklage nominated for this show before.
I know. I think they're setting him up for a big season, so sight unseen, I think it's his best shot yet. The problem with him is they always give Jon Snow a lot of like action scenes, and the emotional stuff and the more touching moments don't always resonate as well. They don't always have the significance that a character like Cersei or Tyrion has. Like, they don't give Jon Snow big speeches like Tyrion did in the courtroom scene. Jon Snow usually is out like fighting something, and that's harder for, I think, Emmy voters to connect with. They go for more of the politics and the grieving mother and everything. But I think this is going to be a big season for him.
Amanda?
Yeah, I think if he has one really big scene with maybe Sophie Turner, with like a big reunion, that might be enough to do it. But I don't think he needs an episode to get in. I think all the buzz surrounding his character, right now I'm already trying to formulate who I'm going to bump, because I think he has enough momentum. He's already going to be on the cover of Entertainment Weekly by himself. He's got enough buzz just to get in. And that's probably going to help Peter Dinklage or Kit Harington, because they might be in each other's episodes.
Right.
So that's my thought process with that, is I don't think he needs, like Michael Kelly last year with that first episode where he was the episode and you kind of really wanted him to be nominated. I think the fact that the whole buzz around the season starting was around him, now he's alive. And this actually proves the whole why you shouldn't just dump 10 episodes online kind of thing, because now we have to wait a week to see what's going to happen. We're all waiting to see what's going to happen with Jon Snow. We're not just clicking the next episode. I don't think he needs a knockout episode. I think he is probably the second person you think of male-wise, and with the show being the returning Emmy winner, historically most shows that win get a bump the next year. So I think he's probably in.
Yeah. I do feel often with the shows getting the bumps, it is less likely to happen for a show that wins in its fifth season than a show that wins in its first.
And there's not much more they can bump up with Game of Thrones, to be honest. They got so many Emmy nominations.
The only place they could would be acting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, that depends on when they kill people off.
Yeah, because like 24 did not get a bump in nominations the year after it won.
But its
that being
quality
said,
went down too.
It was the worst season of 24 ever. The Sopranos also, I would guess, did not get a bump after it won, but it had a year off after the year it won, and it probably, to be honest, came back with its weakest season ever as well, The Sopranos. So, like, but I think it is hard. Like, I do think often when we see this bump, it is for a like sort of sophomore season. But we don't have a huge number of case studies of shows that won in their fifth season. We've got The Sopranos and 24, which both had a dip in quality and lost nominations.
Breaking Bad.
And we have Breaking Bad, which I would imagine it got more nominations, I would imagine.
It did about the same.
About the same, yeah.
Yeah.
But it had one of the most critically hailed seasons of television following up its Emmy win. So we'll see. We'll see what Game of Thrones can do. And I think if it ticks up anywhere, it will be getting an extra acting nod or something. Because it can't really do any better in the other categories than it did this year. The only place it's got to move is get another guest actor in or a supporting actor. Probably not a supporting actress, I would guess, just because they've already got 2 slots. Would it get 3? I think if someone else gets in, it probably bumps Clark or Hetty, I would guess.
The only way I could see 3 would be if it's Gwendolyn Christie, because I think being in the last Hunger Games, being in the Star Wars movie, she's kind of top of mind, possibly.
Last year they didn't submit her, I don't think.
If they submit, I would submit her this year just to, if she's got a decent episode. I mean, all she did last year was look for a candle to be lit, so. But she did still have one really good scene where she was talking about Renly and why she wanted to protect him. She still did have a decent episode. But I think this year, with all she's done outside of Game of Thrones, if she's more involved, which it looks like she's going to be this year, they might submit her. But 3's going to be hard. But if anyone was going to do it, it might be her, just because she has a lot of stuff going for her.
I think a really interesting thing, I actually think, though, and we talked about this a bit about this before the chat, Amanda, is that actually the best chance this sort of has for a nomination this episode is in the directing category for Jeremy Bedeswa. He got nominated last year for an episode that wasn't particularly a standout episode for the series, not to discount his direction at all, but it wasn't one that was high on our list or that we thought. They obviously ticked that box because he's a respected director among the branch. They liked what he did in that episode. This episode is a lot more buzzed, a lot more attention than the episode he had last year that he got nominated for. I would guess they're going to tick off his name again. That'd just be my guess. We've still got a whole 8 episodes to go, which could change that, but you know, he got in over Hardhome last year, correct?
Yeah, he got in. They got 2 directing nominations last year, and I think what he has going for him again is it's one of those episodes you remember, but it's not all about just the special effects. It is a lot of character-driven stuff, and I don't know if it's a winner, but it definitely yeah, if we were predicting directing, I would pick this episode.
Yeah.
Because the directing is also very obvious in that he has to handle a lot of things. It's a jam-packed episode, so he's juggling lots of different storylines at once, which I think can help him get in for this one.
And he directed the first 2 episodes of this season. This was clearly the one to submit. And and I don't think he's directing any more this season.
He could lose to Martin Scorsese again.
Yeah, well, that will probably, he could lose to Martin Scorsese again.
Deja vu. He directed the most buzzed episode of television of the year, and he's gonna
Yeah. I spoke with Jeremy Podeswa last year, and I asked him if Jon Snow was dead. This was while he was directing this episode. I was talking to him about this. I was,
Oh,
yeah, I was. He was in Belfast. What? Sorry.
he kept his mouth shut.
He kept his. Well, this is what he said, which to me was a little bit of a red flag. He said, "I've got nothing. Watch the show. It's going to be great. Jon Snow's death was another huge storytelling thing. It's the definition of a cliffhanger. Where does the story go from here?" And I thought, I had not heard many people on the show at that time talking about it as a cliffhanger. Like, they were sort of going, "Oh, well, what are people saying? He's clearly dead." So, anyway, Jerry Podeswa, he's also talking a bit about, like, oh, where does the story go from here? That's a cliffhanger. Like, but, yeah, he kept his mouth shut, even though he was directing this at the time.
Oh,
He
my
had his
God.
marching orders.
Yeah, he had marching orders. But, I was chatting to him in Belfast on, like, the worst sort of Google Hangouts connection I think I've ever had. We had, the sound wasn't working for him or for me or for one of us. It was definitely due to Belfast internet connection or whatever. So I had to, like, be on my phone during the chat with him, and I was like, the audio is going through my phone and the video is going through the computer. So the thing is that he couldn't hear me. So for him to hear me, I had to be on the phone. For me to hear him, it was coming through the Hangout, obviously, because if that wasn't working, then we wouldn't have been able to record it. But yeah, so that was one of the most technically challenging interviews I've ever had. Even though it's probably with someone from the show with the highest technical budget. Like,
The Wi-Fi is not working.
yeah, they're spending too much money on dragons and not enough money on Wi-Fi in Belfast. So anyway, we've got let's talk about some of the we talked a lot about the performances and things like that. Let's talk a bit about some of the plot points and things. What do we think? Who do we think, if you had to reward an MVP, which character played the best Game of Thrones this week? Amanda.
Tyrion. He's
Tyrion.
He's got the dragons on his side, and yeah, I mean he's always been the smartest person, and he had no fear and went down there, and I think that's the smartest move.
I think the thing about the Tyrion scene for me that was a bit annoying for me, I loved the scene, it was a great scene, was he sort of was talking a lot before he saw them about how they were getting hungry, how they were going to be starving and things like that, and he sort of like said, "I think it's time for supper," or something. But he goes down there, he doesn't have any food.
Well, I think he was letting them out. Like, that's what my
Also, they
impression
can
was.
go get their own food.
Yeah, it's like he knows that they can't live in captivity because he's read every book imaginable. So he's like, hey, I'm your best friend.
Yeah. So, boy, Daenerys could be pretty pissed with him if she gets back and those dragons are just flown off.
I think they're going to stick around close by.
I think they'll stick around too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, it's a big risk. Tyrion's played a big risk. He's playing with fire here.
Quite literally.
Sam, do you agree that Tyrion had the best episode of all the characters?
Well, best episode or best move?
Best move. Best move.
Well, a lot of people made moves to just like off other characters to move their way up the pole, like Ramsay and Euron killing Balon Greyjoy. But I kind of think, even though I hate him, the High Septon made the best move, because Jaime could have easily killed him right then and there and just dealt a huge blow to the faith. But like he really set it up as like, if you kill me, I'll just be a martyr and it'll make us stronger. And he made Jaime back down. I don't even think he really needed the army there in order to get Jaime to back down. I thought that was a really kind of scary show of power for him. They're going to be a big problem for the rest of the season, I think.
See, I think you're both wrong. I think Ramsay Bolton made the best move in the episode. Not in terms of morally, horrible, the least moral move. but he's really now just running Winterfell. Like, he saw a threat to his sort of authority, and he just did what needed to be done. And I feel like he's going to be quite a threatening villain now, moving forward in the season, without those sort of shackles.
Yeah, I mean, he's always, he realized he had support of other houses in the north. My theory of how he's going to have a downfall is that when Theon goes home and Yara somehow takes over as queen of the Ironborn, that the Greyjoys are going to come help the remaining Stark houses in the north and take him down. That's my theory, but
I do think he is going to be making subsequent bad moves moving forward. But I think this episode he made some big power moves that have forwarded it's put him in a position now, because his dad was really going to limit his ability to move forward in the game. I think we're going to see a couple of blunders, and I do think we're going to see a big fall for him moving forward. But I think this episode, he made some big moves. Amanda?
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens to him. I think Littlefinger is probably in more trouble. We haven't seen him yet this season, but he's probably in a lot more trouble than he realizes, because he's the one who takes very calculated risks, and he kind of put Sansa in a situation he hadn't probably thought through so well. And now Ramsay's pissed, and Brienne and Sansa are pissed, so whoever runs into him first might dislocate his head from his neck. So we haven't seen him yet, but he's in a lot of trouble. The other person I'm kind of interested to see is what Bran is up to, because I really love the flashback, but not a flashback scene, where we finally kind of saw Lyanna, the Lyanna, finally. The face that launched the big war.
I was mad there wasn't more of him in this episode, because that was such an intriguing scene, and now he has the ability to kind of go back and discover all these different heritage things that everyone's been.
Yeah, Bran and the three-eyed sparrow are sort of like Marty and Doc.
Max von, I can't remember his last name. Sit-out, yeah, and if he's only got an episode or two and he has a decent scene, he could definitely be in the guest acting category, because he is a very big name. He got in for Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. I can't remember. It's one of those titles that I kind of remember part of it, but not all of it. But yeah, he could definitely sneak in.
Yes, it's and we love the older guy and the younger kid going back in time together. That's always a fun storyline. Brad, we have to go back. Yeah, but it seems a bit more like a Christmas Carol time travel, where the people can't meet with them, than a Back to the Future time travel where you can your aunts can fall in love with you, and you can get into trouble, and then you got to quickly get. I don't think we're going to be seeing Bronn have to try to get Caitlyn to fall in love with Ned Stark so that he doesn't dissolve in a photograph.
Not with an arranged marriage.
No, not with an arranged marriage. So I think it's all good. I think it's all good. It's more your Christmas Carol. Max is, I guess, sort of more your the Three-Eyed Raven is more the ghost of Westeros past, who will take you back to learn things learn valuable lessons from your relatives and Westeros history. What about was this a good episode for Melisandre? She was the one who made the move to bring Jon Snow back to life, upping her. And here's a question I got for you guys, a bit of a nerdy question. With Balon Greyjoy biting the dust, can we now say this was a success? The leech usurping thing she did. She's got all three now. Is this a win for her and her magic that they are all now dead? I think no, but what do you guys think?
No.
I think so.
You think so? Okay, so Sam, back it up, and we'll tell you why you're wrong.
Well, I'm Team Melisandre. Because in the books you find out that Balon tidbit a lot earlier than this season. I thought they might just cut it out. So I think I'm really excited when they come back because she's going to discover, after thinking she's been wrong, all of her prophecies and all of her stuff have actually come true. And I think she's going to be a useful tool. So I think it was a good episode for her because once she discovers everything that she thought was false is actually true, she can reinterpret her prophecies the right way and really aid Jon Snow for the future.
Amanda, why is the Balon Greyjoy death not a win for Melisandre?
Because it was his brother. I mean, this is like family. We had like Oedipus this week. Like, geez, family killing family, and I mean, he was so old. Eventually, he was going to kick it anyways. Like, I don't even know how Yara can think that he didn't just slip off that bridge, because he looked like 80. It wouldn't have surprised me if he just kind of was teetering along and the wind blew and he slipped. So I don't really think this is a win for her. I think the person who really won this week was Sir Davos, because he went to her and he hates her and said, look, I'm asking you, I'm not asking any gods, I want you to try this. And I think Sir Davos being on Jon Snow's side is probably going to be more beneficial long term than having Melisandre, because I think Jon Snow will listen more than the last one.
Yeah, nothing hurts more. Nothing sort of can make you see someone in a new light, especially Game of Thrones, than seeing them, than seeing someone even more horrible than them. Like, you sort of didn't like Melisandre, bad influence on Stannis, all sorts of stuff like that. But then, you go to the Wall and you see these real villain characters who just murder someone. And he's like, Melisandre, I think she's not too bad now. I'd rather hitch my wagon with her than with these guys. With Sam, with the Greyjoy thing, I just feel like it's so long between the leeches and between the death of Balon Greyjoy. And it's like Amanda says, he was going to die at some point. This is quite a ruthless game. He was pretty old anyway. I don't know how long you can I don't know what statute of limitations you should have on this. And I think, especially since he did it for Stannis, the fact that Stannis died before Balon Greyjoy. But you say in the books it may have not been that order.
Yeah, I read the same thing.
In the books we find out that Balon is dead a lot earlier than this. So the leech thing is a little more of a tinfoil theory in the books because Balon, his death is revealed earlier. But I mean, what if it's one leech works a year? So
it's not a consistent time gap though. You had you had the leech thing, then about 2 episodes before Robb Stark died, then about 2 episodes before Joffrey died, and then 2 seasons before Balon Greyjoy died. I still think good episode for Melisandre. This is a win for her. Yeah, it was a win for Davos. Who were the idiots? Which people in the game played bad games this week, made horrible decisions?
Walder Frey. Walder Frey and her poor baby. She should have ran.
That Meister wasn't really helping out anyone.
Yeah, he didn't really help her out either, I guess. I thought that Ramsay, when he asked for the baby, was going to dump the baby in the fire right then. I was like, don't give him the baby. But I would say, thankfully, she didn't, but it didn't really matter because they were killed in a worse way. But I think Walder played the worst.
Mm. Who was the sort of acting Lord Commander of the Night's Watch?
Oh, Alistair Thorne?
Yeah, Alistair Thorne, I think got to be a horrible episode for him. And just an affirmation that his kill Jon Snow plan was such a bad plan. Such an ill thought out plan. To even conduct this plan the week after the White Walkers, not the White Walkers, the Wildlings come in
Mm-hmm.
rather than the week before the wildlings come in.
Yeah,
Like,
he should have tried that before he let him wander off with them.
Yeah, once the wildlings are brought in, that's you've hitched your wagon to Jon Snow's plan. You can't give up the plan then. I just thought it was so foolish for him to do that. And then then he's talking about, oh well, you're a traitor because you're teaming up with them, and he's like, you're the guy who stabbed the commander of the Night's Watch, Thorne. You're the traitor. We're not the traitors.
Even Bruce Bolton knew that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Right, and that whole showdown just showed how desperately the Night's Watch needs help and needs the wildlings. You know, I mean, yes, they had a giant there, but even if the giant wasn't there, the wildlings could have easily overpowered the Night's Watch guys. So
it didn't even seem like that many wildlings had rocked up, and they were able to beat them pretty easily. And it's just chuck them.
They all just threw down their weapons. They were like, "I'm not dying for you."
Yeah, and it was
okay.
Yeah, just put them in the cell, guys. There were enough people that they could just fit them all in the cells. It was a very small, I just don't know what they were thinking. And that's all without the fact that Jon Snow is brought back to life, which I can sort of forgive them for not anticipating that happening. But he's brought back to life, so it was for nothing anyway.
Yeah, I just don't want to see Ollie get killed. I know Jon Snow likes to do his own beheadings, but I just don't want to see a 10, however old that kid is, killed on screen. He needs to be reformed, but that might be too hard.
Yeah, that's
they've done a baby and a 10-year-old girl last season, so they'll probably do it.
Yeah.
I feel worse. I wouldn't feel as bad for Ollie as I do for the baby that died this episode, or the two sort of Baker's boys or whatever that got burnt by Thea. This would not be the worst kid death on the show, because this was a kid that stabbed Jon Snow,
and killed his girlfriend.
Yeah, Jon Snow didn't kill him.
Well, his girlfriend did kill his entire family, so.
Well, I guess.
Yeah, and the redhead.
I think Ollie. I don't mind Ollie killing. I'll forgive Ollie for killing Ygritte. That was in a battle. He didn't understand the whole backstory and context of Jon Snow and Ygritte and things. I think that's fine. I don't have a problem with that at all. I do have a problem with him stabbing Jon Snow. That I thought was a pretty douchey move.
After he made him his butler or whatever it is, steward.
Yeah, I think that was a low blow. Bad week for Ollie too, probably, because Jon Snow being back to life and stuff is probably not whether he dies or not. He's probably not gonna get as good a position in the Jon Snow administration than he would have gotten in the Alexander Thorne administration.
Well, he swung and missed at the red-haired wildling, so he really had a bad episode.
Yeah. What about anyone else do anything bad this episode? Obviously Balon Greyjoy probably going on that rickety bridge in a storm would have been a bad idea even without someone who wanted to kill him on that bridge. Yeah,
they're treacherous bridges. I can't believe the Greyjoys just use those to get around.
Yeah, I could not believe.
I thought he was just gonna slip. I'm like,
I thought that was a questionable move without the foe on the bridge. Just walking across that bridge would have been a top 5 bad move of the episode. I would be so nervous on that bridge. Look at this, stand there having a chat. But can we go inside and finish in this massive confrontation? It was pretty cool though.
Yeah.
It was a pretty cool setting for a scene. But I was going, boy, this is so, this is not going to last, this bridge. This is, anyone else have been,
I just like Varys' reaction when Tyrion's like, if I ever have an idea like this again, punch me in the face, and he's like, oh, I'm so waiting for that day.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't get that line though, because didn't Tyrion like? Wasn't that a good scene for Tyrion? I get.
Yeah.
Well, he could have gotten eaten, so.
The nerves, kind of maybe next time you should tell me this isn't a good idea.
Yeah.
Varys would definitely punch him. He's waiting for that, but he probably won't.
Oh, and the man who the mountain crushed his face in had a really bad day. He made a bad move.
Yeah, he shut his mouth off a little too much.
I
We
was
don't even know
not.
your name.
Yeah. I was not even expecting. Like, I was not expecting after last season to get a scene from the perspective of one of the guys who like flashed Cersei in like his take on that whole scene. I thought was pretty fun.
Oh my
Like,
god.
and she wanted it, guys. Like, she was like, she gave me a look. She was begging. She was into me. So I thought, what do you do when a girl's into you? Just rip off your pants and
Keep them on.
yeah. Like, it was.
That's your opening move. Keep them on.
Yeah, that's the opening move. That's quite the not really a pickup line, but yeah. Anyway, that was great to see. I'm not a big fan of Cersei, but was still pretty cool to see his face get smashed in because he was so annoying. So yeah, we've talked a bit about like quite a lot of the characters. Arya, do we like the stuff with her?
I'm just glad she's done being beaten with a stick, but I don't think she's going to become a faceless person by any means. I think she's just too headstrong.
Yeah.
I think wherever she's going, they just got to get her there. I feel like she's been in kind of the same stasis for a while.
She just keeps wandering around.
Yeah, I'd like her to have a bit more of a purpose in the show, and maybe that's where we're heading, but yeah, I wasn't particularly excited about the faceless person stuff. That seemed a bit uninteresting to me. So I'm hoping sort of through these things she gets some sort of purpose or mission. Like, I liked it with the names of people she wanted to seek vengeance on. That was a cool thing for her to have to do, and I don't even really mind if she's blind or not, because her being blind is pretty interesting. Like, that's I thought has been a cool spin on her. Something that's probably building character within her and making her give her different perspectives and things like that. But anyway, not really hard to tell where things are going with her from that episode. But looks like maybe she's going to get back on the try to be a faceless person.
Or maybe she'll be like Daredevil and she'll tackle the list as a blind assassin.
That would be cool. That would be a really cool direction for her storyline to go.
Yeah.
What about what else have we not gone to yet?
Sansa now knows that all of her siblings except Robb are alive.
That's
just
nice.
That was great.
Yeah, I think she's formulating a plan. She's observed enough that I think she's got a couple moves. That's why I think either way, Littlefinger is in a lot of trouble. He just doesn't know it yet because she's pissed. Ramsay's crazy.
Yeah. So Sansa now knows her whole family, other than, a lot of her siblings that she thought were dead are actually not dead, which will lead to all the more heartbreak when they get killed right before she's about to reunite with them.
God.
He's in a good
I think
mood.
Sansa's gonna reunite the North. She's my last hope for the Stark lineage to retake that whole region. I think she's going to be the one to do it and sit at Winterfell.
Yeah, I hope this is a good year for good moves from Sansa. I think this could be. I think last year was a great season for Sophie Turner. She was my standout actor on the show last season. She didn't get an Emmy nomination. I hope this season is just as strong for her. Yeah, and it's like we didn't talk about. There's someone we didn't talk about, I think. King Tommen and Cersei. That's sort of like they're getting back together. It's probably good news for Cersei. Tommen.
Well, she's got that prophecy that all three of her kids will die. So there's two of them are dead. So she's probably going to be like holding on to Tommen by her fingernails.
I've got my eye on Tommen this season. If he survives every episode of this season, he will have reigned as King of Westeros for more episodes than any other king. He will have the longest reign if he can survive the season.
Even longer than Joffrey. Joffrey lasted
really?
season 2, season 3. He made it like 20.
I think he's on 25 episodes, Joffrey.
Yeah.
25 episodes as king. I think Tommen was sworn in a couple episodes after Joffrey was killed, and then from that crowning ceremony to the final episode of this season would bring Tommen to 26 episodes as king. So, can he be on the Iron Throne longer than anyone else in the series run? Obviously, in episode time, not actual time. That's harder to track.
Well, in terms of the Emmys, I hope he doesn't survive until the end, because as a fan of Lena Headey's acting, I think when she finally loses her last child, Cersei's going to just go insane and have an incredible Emmy episode. So I look forward to that.
Yeah, she's going to have a breakdown.
Yeah. I think if he dies in the final, that still will beat Joffrey. So I think, like, you could get maybe that Emmy tape in the final. I don't know if I wanted to beat Joffrey, though. Joffrey was a lot more of an interesting king than King Tommen.
He feels like a placeholder, Tommen.
Yeah.
More than anything.
Yeah.
Like they're just kind of holding him there, waiting for something else to happen.
Yes. Yeah. So, we've got Bravos. We've talked about that a bit. Talked about the Iron Islands. We've talked about the Wall. Yeah, so I think we've pretty much touched on all the bases from the episode. Do we have any final thoughts, Amanda?
Looking forward to what's going to happen next week with Jon Snow. It proves why it benefits these shows to run one episode at a time, because it's going to have weeks and weeks of buzz instead of one or two. So it'll be interesting to see what happens now that he's alive.
Yeah. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I too. That's I think what I'm most excited about is seeing how he comes back, and if he retains any of the Jon Snow, any of the character we knew, or if he's going to be something completely different. I'm very excited for that.
Cool. I'm just reading through a few in the Gold Derby forums. People are chatting about Game of Thrones all the time, and I'm reading through a few of those comments at the moment. Courtney Smith says, "We all knew it was coming, but I was still holding my breath and did a cheer when he opened his eyes. It was a great episode. I wasn't sure how they were going to end the episode. If they were going to keep us waiting, or maybe we were all wrong and that he wasn't coming back." And she loved the scene with Tyrion and the dragons. Icky says, "So Jon gets resurrected exactly the way everyone assumed. I thought they would at least surprise us in the way he would return and or give us some epic visuals. The resurrection scene was basic as hell. Buffy Season 6 premiere managed to be more intense than that." So there you go. We've got different thoughts. Join in. Did you love it? Or did you love it like Courtney? Were you a bit disappointed like Icky? Get in our forums and talk to us, or tweet us at Gold Derby. I'm thinking of this week I might put up a poll from our chat on the Twitter as well. I might put up a poll as to who played the best episode, and we'll put the three people we thought would play the best. So I thought it was Ramsay Bolton. Who do you think it was, Sam? You thought it was
the High Septon.
The High Septon, and Amanda, you thought it was Tyrion with the dragons.
Yep. Gained two very powerful allies.
Yes, getting dragons is it is a good move. So we'll maybe put that out on Twitter. Get you to vote on Twitter, and we can next week say who won the poll. And it's been great chatting Game of Thrones with you guys.
Yeah, you too.
It's fun.
And next week we'll see what happens.